Is brought to you by M.J. Miller and Company Jewelers. All that glitters is gold at M.J. Miller Jewelers in downtown Barrington.
More of Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy comes your way now. And make sure to join me, Larry Elder, tonight at 7, only on AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Amy sticking with Illinois politics for a minute, but in this instance it has national implications. The Janus case. We've spoken to Mr. Janus before. He's the plaintiff in a case that seeks to eliminate being forced to pay union dues if you don't want to be a member of a public sector union. Janus is a caseworker for the Department of Human Services here in Illinois, and his case has been granted certiorari by the United States Supreme Court. It will be heard next term. It will be decided before June of next year, the end of June of 2018. And it has incredible implications on the future of public sector union membership. If the fair share dues, people are able to choose whether or not they want to be a member of the union or not, whether or not they want to pay dues or not. And so the change in the composition of the court with the addition of Neil Gorsuch changes the prospects for this case and how it is adjudicated. And for more on the topic, we're pleased to be joined by Pat Hughes, who's the president of the Liberty Justice Center, which has been spearheading this case. And in the interest of full disclosure, I co-founded the Liberty Justice Center with Pat. Pat, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hi, Dan. Hi, Amy. Thanks for having me.
So Mark Janus, right? It's Mark?
Yeah, Mark Janus.
Mark Janus. The Mark Janus case heads to the Supreme Court. This is a positive development from your perspective, I know, but why don't you lay out the arguments on both sides, both Mark Janus's perspective as well as the perspective of the public sector unions that are opposing Janus's complaint?
Yeah, so currently Mark Janus is forced to pay, like you said in the intro, Dan, fair share fees to the union, even though he's not a member of the union. And current Supreme Court law, based on a case called Abood back in the 70s, says that that's okay. What we're arguing to the Supreme Court, and what we hope they'll recognize, is that that's a violation of Mark Janus's First Amendment rights. He has the right to freely associate with whomever he wants, and he shouldn't be forced to associate with the union by being forced to pay fees to that union. Secondarily, Dan and Amy, the fair share fees go to the union for political activity.
Right.
The unions will say it's segregated, it's not political activity, but we're talking about public sector unions here, and everything a public sector union does is political, including collective bargaining. Right? They're negotiating with an entity, the state or other governmental entities, that is a political body, and so as a consequence of that, everything they do is political. All the money they raise is for political purposes, and you can't force someone to give money against their will to a political cause, because obviously money is equivalent to speech under the First Amendment. So that's what we're arguing. And in the prior case that was up in front of the Supreme Court, the Friedrichs case, that ultimately didn't get adjudicated because Justice Scalia died, 4 of the justices determined that that was in fact right and agreed with our position. And so we're hopeful that Gorsuch will come along with that and ultimately will be successful. What the unions are arguing, Dan and Amy, is that first of all, there's precedent. Don't touch precedent unless, of course, it's Citizens United. Then you can touch precedent. This is a long-standing precedent, so don't touch it. But mostly that the money is not going to politics. It's going to collective bargaining. And because Mark Janus and other people ostensibly benefit, and I'm not sure that's the case, but ostensibly benefit from the unions negotiating on their behalf, they should have to pay for some of that.
Well, first of all, congratulations. That's a huge victory because, as we all know, the U.S. Supreme Court doesn't take up every case. But in Mark Janus's instance, what does he do for a living? And are the members of Ask Me, do they push back at him? Does he, do they taunt him at work? Do they treat him with respect?
Yeah, my understanding is that he's been fine, but you bring up a really, really good point, Amy. A lot of times what happens with people, and why I think Mark Janus and people like him who stand up to the union and go as far as this, all the way to the Supreme Court, and this is why he's a hero, because he's standing up. There is workplace pressure by the unions. This isn't a secret to anyone who knows how unions operate. And in the public sector, it's that specific, because the money that's being raised by people like Janice, when they step outside of that, and if this case is decided in our favor, the union leadership will be deprived of a lot of money to be used to do political activities, a lot of money to help move other people that they want in and out of office, and that's where their bread is ultimately buttered, on state contracts, on renegotiation, including, like, Amy, you mentioned AFSCME, which, as we know, has had a major negotiation with the governor in our state. So he's a hero for doing this, and our goal, hope, and expectation is that we will do good by him by winning this case in front of the Supreme Court.
And the argument that the unions make, just trying to analogize this a little bit for people, I mean, it would be like me arguing, or me and Amy arguing, here at the AM 560, the answer, we oppose tax increases and the like. So if we successfully lead a charge to reduce or repeal a tax, then we've provided a material benefit to the household incomes of Illinois families, so we should be able to force Illinois families to finance our salaries.
Yeah, he's getting some consequential benefit in the case of Janice or other people similarly situated to him, and he should pay for it. And that's ridiculous, because benefits are, benefits like you just mentioned occur all the time in our society, and you can't just force people to join in and associate with you. The First Amendment doesn't allow that. And in the case of a public sector union, it's all political speech. Everything they're doing is political, and forcing someone to pay to subsidize that speech against their will is a violation of their First Amendment free speech rights.
And what about, I mean, I was in a union for 18 years, and I never wanted to pay union dues.
You're a union
and I tried
thug.
to get, no, I tried to get out. Oh, yeah, Dick K. Ed Snodgrass,
used to
that's
say,
his real name, would not have any of it.
Yeah.
And it grieved me, and I got grieved. But I know a lot of anchors, Pat, who put that in their contract where the company has to pay their union dues. I mean, I think that's crazy, but good for them if they could negotiate that into their contract.
Yeah, and you bring a nice distinction, an important distinction. This is only going to impact public sector workers. I mean, if the case is decided in our favor and in Mark Janice's favor, it will end forced unionization in the public union space, and there'll be right to work for public union workers. It doesn't impact private unions, non-public unions.
And speaking of public sector unions, I just want to make this clear. If you want to join AFSCME or SEIU...
God bless you, Dan.
Right?
Go ahead. You can join.
You going to wear a purple shirt to work tomorrow or on Monday?
No, I'm not. I don't want to join. So it doesn't preclude. It just says you get to choose.
Right, and from our perspective at Liberty Justice Center, the unions should go ahead and try to encourage people to join the unions and sell their wares and say, this is why this is beneficial to you, and God bless them. They should try to do that, and if they do that successfully, they'll prosper. But if someone doesn't want to be receptive to that message, has their own personal reasons for not wanting to be part of that, wants to negotiate on their own behalf, wants to just be left alone, this is a free country. This is America. You shouldn't be forced to do that, and so they shouldn't have to.
Yeah, but what they're really worried about is not only having to
losing money.
Well, having to do the heavy lifting of actually persuading people. It's just so much easier to just force them. Gosh, now I've got to do work. And the other thing is they've seen what's happened, like the Wisconsin Education Association after Governor Walker's budget repair bill. When teachers could choose to be in the teachers union or not, they lost 40% of their membership overnight and all the money associated with it. So that's the real deal here.
That's why it's so easy, Dan, for governmental entities to borrow money, because they can always force people to pay through taxation. This is no different, right? If a choice is given to Mark Janice and others, they may choose to not participate. Many of them do. They continue not to. And forcing them is one of the measures by which the union is allowed to be as successful as they have been. Without it, it's going to be more difficult because people are going to be free to choose.
All right. He is Pat Hughes doing his best Milton Friedman impersonation there. He's the president of the Liberty Justice Center. Pat, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks, Amy.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Oh, what a ride. Coming up